Like there are 5 buckets that I consider that are actually more valuable than money, but I want to make sure I pay myself first in those buckets as well. And so if I look at like time, if I look at like relationships, if I look at like health, if I look at like status, and if I look at like core values, the things I hold strong, like those 5 things, those 5 buckets are areas where often we'll sacrifice it for money. And I get it. There's a foundation of like, you just need, there's I think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, water, shelter. Yeah, that comes first. You can't survive. And for a business, cash flow. Like you got to have that. Otherwise you can't survive. But in a human experience, these other buckets are more valuable to me. And I want to make sure I'm profiting I'm like paying myself first and not creating a scenario, which I hear from a lot of folks where they built a business that was successful, that actually turned out to be a cage that they resented because they sacrificed the other things that were more meaningful to them.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Cameron, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. Of course, again, I'm Cameron, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that, they can live that dream life that they're earning each and every day, but not being a slave to their business. And we just do that through CFO services. So I had to, make some calls and figure out like, who could we bring on that could bring something new, something interesting. And so, they were like, you got to go talk to Matt. And I'm like, all right, well, who's Matt? So I reach out. Matt's like, I'm all in. Let's jump into it. So I'm going to let Matt, owner of Zappy Chat, tell y'all who he is, what he does, how long he's been in the game. And then we're going to jump into some good stuff. You got it, man.
Yeah, love it. Super excited. Pertinent information there. We've had an agency for 11 years, and the last 3 years, we started licensing out some of the stuff that's worked really well for us. And so Zappy Chat, it goes direct to business as well as we relicense to other agencies, and it just solved the problem of responsiveness. And so for a lot of businesses, they miss out on business just because they effectively ghost their customers. And so we help small, medium, huge businesses be faster and more effective at getting back to prospects and even customers.
All right, cool. All right, so now let's go back in time. So, okay, tell us, how many kids? How are you and wifey doing? How's that going?
Yeah, I love it. So, I've got a beautiful wife of 9 years. We have 2 boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And this is actually super pertinent to our experience and our journey. So for us, a huge catalyst for growth was becoming a parent. So for me, I didn't realize it, but a couple of years in the business, I had a really catalyzing discovery, and it was that I believed that if I ever ran out of money, I'd become the worst version of my father. And so that was driving me. That was the bear in the room. And it caused me, I'm not type A, but I'm crazy OCD about numbers and profitability, specifically like that idea. I have spreadsheets month by month. This is just Google Sheets from the time I turned 18, before I was even doing real entrepreneurial stuff, tracking every dime in and out of my life. And I didn't realize it, but I had this belief that if I ever ran out of money, I'd become the worst version of my father. And I was committed to not doing that. And so that was kind of was propelling me. This happens for a lot of us, is that success comes from running from something. You're just not always aware of it. And with that, I had a high expectation for fatherhood. And so going into, my wife got pregnant in 2019, and we were like, I was like, I wanted more, I call it disconnected revenue, because in the agency space, I'd done a lot of stuff. We had a team of 8 or 9 folks, typical retainer, started marketing stuff, but it was very connected. Client has a bad day, I have a bad day, right? I felt a little bit out of my control. Even if I was in control of my finances, I wasn't as in control with my time. And so I was committed to growing what I thought of as disconnected revenue. I wanted to do what turned into lower ticket, more volume, but higher leverage, so that I could be a present father. That was a big win in my mind, and spent a lot of 2019 doing that, cultivating it. 2020, it was actually so first due date was April 24th. My wife's water broke on March 15th, going to the hospital. So he's early. This is our first.
Yeah.
And we walk into the hospital and it's kind of normal. And then COVID hit. So March 16th, he was born. And that was like the Monday of the week where like the hospital was literally, I'm in California, so we didn't hit us for a while, but like we reacted strong. They were like kicking people out of the hospital. They were, no elective procedures. He was also not fully developed. His lungs weren't developed. So he was born and they took him right away into the NICU. And I didn't know it at this time, but the NICU's like set aside. Like it's not like usually a normal, parents can be in there, but with COVID, they didn't know what was going on. So they took him away and then kicked us out. Literally, I was not prepared for what it was like to leave the hospital without my son and not be able to see him. And we were just like, we were just blocked off. And so this hit as COVID hit. And so for the next couple weeks, I would come with a lunchbox, my backpack, just the black lunchbox backpack, and a car seat. And I'd walk in. The only access to the hospital is through the ER, or like the I think it's ER, through the emergency room. And I'd walk into the emergency room and say, just my kid's in the NICU, and they'd like ask no questions, let you in. I couldn't get into the NICU, but I would just go into the little waiting room next to the NICU just to be close to him. And that's where I took calls with clients who were just saying like, we got to pause, right? That was like the ring of anyone who was in, marketing. We felt it in those early days. And if you were in a state that had a huge lockdown, we had a lot of clients in California, and it was like, they're like, I'm sorry, we're going to stop marketing because we literally can't be open. And so that was the catalyst for a big fight or flight for me. And I chose to fight. And it's funny, what a blessing father it's been. But man, like there are so many times where I can make excuses for myself. I can be lazy. I can know the things I should do, and then I decide not to do them. For my kids, there was nothing that I wouldn't do for them. And in that moment where I felt like I was fighting for like our family, and it had already been to the point where it's like, we're single provider household, and a business that I owned is like all on me. And, it was a huge catalyst for just getting over myself and doing the things that I was previously scared of doing, and just trusting that there'd be a way.
Okay. There was a lot in there. I don't know how we gonna get to it. Okay, we got only person working. So, okay, tell me about that, because in my case, that's the same thing here, right? I'm married 9 years, which means 2014.
2014, yeah.
2014.
Yeah.
3 kids now, 8, 5, and 1. And to your point, like the pressure of it being all on you in and of itself is something.
Wow.
So like, how do you, on just a normal basis, like there's so many questions I can even ask from that, but I guess how do you keep that balance? Like, hey, if I don't do well, because I'm guessing just based on a little hint you dropped in regards to your parents, like it may not have been the most healthiest thing growing up. So to now I'm in full control, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this, but how do you walk that line of like not trying to overcompensate, and all those different things and putting all this unnecessary pressure on yourself? What is that like for you?
That's a great question. So this is in business, like problems don't disappear, they just change. Like there's just different problems. And so that's where like I'd found is like I could that pressure, we've been blessed financially. I've created a huge margin. I say it's like the bigger the demon, or the bigger the dragon, the bigger the wall that you build, right? I built a big wall. I was like, that year, 2019, I decided I needed $100,000 of disconnected revenue coming to me personally every single month. Why? I don't need that. We live in California, but we're not like crazy. I believed that if I got close to this idea, like all of a sudden something would shift in me. That's not the reality, but like that belief, created this desire to create that kind of margin and space in there. To your question of like, how do you manage it? Like still now, I'm be honest, I fell in love with my wife because of how she prays. So we're both believers. What does that mean for me? Like I did not grow up with any sort of like religious background. It was agnostic. My parents were both very actually kind of like anti faith. They were burned by established religions. And but for me today, I'm conscious of a spiritual experience, and so I I tap into a higher power. That's like, I can't get any more complicated than that. Like literally this morning, even today on a day like this, and now we got over 110 team members. We serve over 40,000 businesses. About 10% of those are actually our paying clients, because a lot of what we do is outsource services. So if an agency uses us,
Right.
they might serve their clients there. But 40,000 businesses, 4,000 of those are our paying customers. And I still wake up and there's fires. There's still stuff. And there's so many other people responsible. I wear that. Literally, this morning, I walked up to my wife and I was like, can you just pray for me? I'm just feeling anxiety. Like, you still feel the weight of it. And I wish there was a fancier answer there, but like, I get on my knees and I pray, and I got no magic powers. It is just for me, I try to live. One of the core takeaways for me, because I wasn't raised with it. So, and a lot of me is like, a lot of me was like, I don't want to do what I saw modeled for me. So a lot, like,
Right.
it's like, you either want to you want to live up to it, or like you run away from it. I've been a lot of like, I ran away from that. So in
Correct.
many ways, my dad's repulsion for the church is probably what drove me to the church. So I'll be honest, like, like it's funny that like, that ping pong effect. But in there, one of the things that was most compelling to me is I want to live a life marked by humility and love. If that's it, and that's that cascades down into maybe a good topic for the show is like right now one of my big wins. So besides just looking for help is knowing where you're going. And my big win in life is if I can raise well-adjusted, kind human beings who want to spend time with me when they no longer have to, that's a win. And my wife would share that. Yeah, like that. And I say that probably at least once a day, that I want to raise well-adjusted, kind human beings who want to spend time with me when they no longer have to. That's it.
I mean, that's a great goal. I mean, it's not a bad one.
I hope it's not. It's not a bad goal. So when I feel anxiety in that, like the weight of the business or feeling those things, what motivates me to humility is a clear understanding of what I'm trying to do. I believe that if I'm anxious and stressed and manifesting that around my kids, that I'm not going to be like someone they want to hang out with. And I'm not saying like it's not bad. I'm not trying to like hide this feeling of anxiety. But so like honestly, that motivates it though, because I've felt in spaces when you're also driven to succeed, you can just carry it, right? You can just be like, you know what? There's anxiety. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to like wear that. I don't need to ask for help. I'm going to do this thing, because if I'm motivated by just like, I just got to be strong enough, I can do that. The story in my mind is I want my kids to want to spend time with me. They don't necessarily care how much, 1,000% they do not care how much money's in the bank account. They don't care at all. They don't care how big the team is. They don't care about any of that whatsoever. They do care if I have the mental space to be present with them. If when I walk into the room, I can engage with them and have fun with them. If I can be present and listen and hear about their life, those are the things that they care about. And because I've got a clear vision of where I'm heading, I like I said from the start, I'm like, I'll get over myself, and it's a humbling thing to go to your wife and be like, can you pray for, like, I'm not holding it all together. Like, I'm feeling it right now, but I'm not trying to front anything for her. I'm not trying to like be all the things to her. We are on the same page about our big win in life, and she knows that we're not going to be able to do it alone. And so that comes from, like I said, tapping into higher power and doing it together.
It's okay. You can say Jesus. It's okay. I ain't gonna
Jesus. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. But like, yeah, that's the.
I was like, he is being so careful. It's okay. It's Jesus. I'm laughing because like literally this happened last night, right? Like I was just thinking, not from an anxiety standpoint, but from the standpoint of, like you said, like, man, I'm trying to figure this thing out. I know where I want to be or where I want to go, but it's the time it's taking or the way it's happening is not what I envision. And she literally was like, you know what? We haven't prayed together in a few days. Why don't we do that? Because we're both going through something. And we just literally, after dinner, we just sat there for like 10, 15 minutes. And to your point, I think that is so key to know that you don't have to go at it alone, right? You don't have to be, even if yes, our role may be the one that's providing, but that doesn't mean I have to be Superman 24/7. And there's nothing wrong even with asking for help. So I love how you're able to. You're not like, oh, I'm the breadwinner. You got, babe, I need help because it's a challenging day today. You know. So I love that. You got so much I want to dive into. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep it on kids. I'll leave parents alone, even though I really want to go there.
Yeah, no, I love, so this is a good one because we're talking like in that space. So there is something I've realized is just a law of nature is that more flexible things will flex to less flexible things. So simple. But if you think about like you have a feather and a brick and they collide, like the feather's going to give, the brick's going to stay, right? And you have a brick and titanium and they collide and the brick's going to give and the titanium's going to hold, right? So like less more flexible things are going to flex to the less flexible things. So a really empowering strategy for so many things is just be inflexible. Be inflexible. Easier said than done, but crazy liberating. So here's an example of this. I'm actually breaking it right now, but I'm excited for you. But my day, today was a little bit different, but typically my day is I don't do any work for the core chunk of the day. So I work in the morning and then I'm off when my kids are awake. And then I go back, they literally go to, right now they just sync up in nap time, but usually around like, in the afternoon, 2, 3 p.m. is when they'll nap for 3 hours. And so I've just architected my day in a way where I'm always free in the core chunk of the day to be present with them. How did this happen? I just blocked it out on my calendar. I just said like, this doesn't happen now. I just chose to be inflexible. And I've held that since, so when my son was born, he, even when we took him home, there's they say there's this lag with NICU babies developmentally. They catch up, like he's totally fine, everything's great now, but it takes probably like a couple of years to be like on pace with what you'd expect. But so early on, they just sleep like crazy, which is like good. It's good, but we have to wake him up. We have to feed him, and he also wasn't like he wasn't strong enough. So it was actually no, he did. We kind of shared it, but it was like mixed strength there between breastfeeding and bottle feeding, and like his ability to just developmentally, like when they're in the NICU, they're like tube feeding. It's like he's getting food through a tube. And so I was like, I'm gonna bottle feed every time they're bottle feeding. I'm bottle feeding. So that the cadence that kind of worked out too, which is fortunate, is he like every other feed he would bottle feed. Yeah. And I just put it in my calendar. And so he was also very scheduled. Like not every kid, I'll tell you after having two, not every kid's always on a schedule. He was, because we're like waking him up in that schedule. So it kind of worked out well that I could plan for it, but then I could be rigid and inflexible and be like, look at that. Like even at that time, we had a team of, let's say 10 folks, but running a team of 10 folks for the business that we had. And I was able to bottle feed my son when it comes out to be 6 or 8 times a day. I forget how it paced out with the 3 hours, a lot. And through the night, like all those things, I was able to just be present because I chose to be inflexible. And that just kind of carried through. So when we had our second, we were conscious of, like what it was going to be like for our oldest in that space there. So I was like, I'm just going to carve out the majority of my day is going to be not working. And how do I do that? And so imagine like this, I could work 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's 4 hours. That's already a ton of time. That was effective. Great. And then I can be present with him 9 a.m. to say 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. And that's when he's awake, and I just like, I hang out with them, go on adventures every day. With having kids, it's very easy to fall into, I call it like, it's like Groundhog's Day. Every day's the same. Like the difference between a weekend and a weekday, you're like, there's less traffic, more traffic. Like that's kind of it for us. Like it's very easy to flow into that cycle. And so I just block that out. And you're like, okay, so then if I've got 3 to 6 or 2 to 5, kind of schedule, they're like, wow, I put in 7 working hours. That's a full work day. I just chose to spread. I chose to orient my schedule in a way where I could be present with my kids. And so for me, this was profit first. This is like the concept. It's a great book, but like this idea of pay yourself first. I think of it in like, there are 5 buckets that I consider that are actually more valuable than money, but I want to make sure I pay myself first in those buckets as well. And so if I look at like time, if I look at like relationships, if I look at like health, if I look at like status, and if I look at like core values, the things I hold strong, like those 5 things, those 5 buckets are areas where often we'll sacrifice it for money. And I get it. There's a foundation of like, you just need, there's I think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, water, shelter. Yeah, that comes first. You can't survive. And for a business, cash flow. Like you got to have that. Otherwise you can't survive. But in a human experience, these other buckets are more valuable to me. And I want to make sure I'm profiting I'm like paying myself first and not creating a scenario, which I hear from a lot of folks where they built a business that was successful, that actually turned out to be a cage that they resented because they sacrificed the other things that were more meaningful to them.
So you're telling me you're working 5 to 9, 9 to 2 is blocked off, then you work 3 to 6, and then that's it.
Yeah. So I'll say like right now, I've become less rigid with it as our kids have gotten older. They have different things too. So for example, on a day where they like want to, like we are blessed to live near my wife's parents, and so they'll love to just go over there and have a day with my wife's parents. So I'm like, okay, it's fine and fair for them to have like even my wife will drop them off there. They'll have a day with the grandparents, and like that's fine. And so if that happens on a Tuesday, like I'm not going to be like, no, I need to take them on an adventure today. But what this allows me to do is like be like, yesterday, what did we do? We did golfing, splash pad, and then like got acai bowls, and that's a regular day for us. And so to get to have those my son, my 3-year-old loves golfing, and so we go to the like driving range. We'll go and golf together. My golf game has gotten a lot better as of just being a parent, which is funny. You wouldn't expect that, but I get to have those shared experience with them. I think this is unique. We also only have boys, and so I'm conscious of that for our kids. It's like I think boys connect a lot over shared experiences. We still get to talk and do all that stuff too, but like they light them up to go on adventures, to do the sort of things. And so one of our little hacks is we'll do pretty commonly. So Disneyland, we're in LA, does a character dining experience, which is like a buffet and the characters there. You don't have to be in the park at all. And so we'll go down and just do like brunch, even just the 2 of us or sometimes 3 of us. So I'll do like sometimes I'll take the boys just for me because I understand the dynamic there. There are plenty of times where it's like just my wife and them. And so for her, it's super healthy to have that balance. Like I get to engage, have conversations like this with other adults frequently, all like that, even like 8 hours a day. That happens for me naturally. For her, just to be like, that's the flip side of intentionality. For her to go and actually spend time with friends or spend time with family and have connected moments as fully developed human beings. It has to be more than just us with our kids. It's the highest value thing for me, but it can't be the only thing, right? It's like you love dessert, but you can't only eat dessert. And so this is an example of being rigid around the things that are high priority for you. Like people respect that. People they're not even aware of it. In the same way, if you chose to sleep in till 9 a.m. and your calendar didn't take an appointment until 9:30, no one would notice, and you just decided to sleep in. Like you could do that. I chose other things.
All right, cool. So as we wrap this up, because I know you're a busy guy, and it's probably almost nap time is up, right? My question to you, what would you say to young Matt, like high school version or college version, now that you've done what you've done and reached whatever you would say is a success, or whether that's being married or whatever you want to define as successful for you, if you can go back to college age Matt or high school Matt, what would you tell him?
I would say, well, this is a great question. I think it's one, there's an unfair advantage to imperfect action.
Okay.
I'd say like speed. I grew up in California. We learned in 4th grade about the gold rush. It wasn't called the gold crawl. I see a lot of people miss out just because they take a lot of time to think about doing instead of just doing and acknowledging that the first time you do it is going to be it's probably going to be the worst time you do it. And so I see that like with my kids as they develop, you just got to be bad fast. There's an unfair advantage to just being bad fast. And so I think I might tell them that, because it took me a while to get over that concept of being okay with being bad. And then the second thing I think is the most important decision you're going to make is your spouse. I'd probably say your significant other. Like that, I've seen it.
Pretty important.
It just is. And so, and it, you know, if it went back to me, I'd be like, you're on the right path. You'll find someone that's great. But for anybody out there who's younger, I'd be like, man, I cannot stress that enough, that I've just seen folks and seen the unfair advantage that can be to have someone where you're aligned on the things that matter most. And they're either like they're in it with you or they are championing you and they're totally on the same page. And either work great. And so for me, that's like our dynamic is she's not entrepreneurial, but she fills me up in like the ways that matter most to me. Like the things that I'm going to be caring about when I'm 80 years old, she fits all of those things and she celebrates the game that I'm playing, right? So you think of like, I've heard of that dynamic of like sports or athletics kind of a thing. It's like they don't have to play the same sport as you, but if they enjoy it and will celebrate and champion, and they're telling you to go hard, push, you know, fill that calling kind of a thing, then it'll still work out great.
All right, cool. Well, we know you got to go. Tell the people if they want to work with you, they're like, man, this guy's super interesting. How can we reach out to him, get in touch with them? Yeah. Tell them how they can get in touch with you in case they want to reach out and who you serve.
Yeah, well, so I'd say if you're an agency owner, we absolutely serve you. If you're a business owner, our tech also serves you. I mean, we do a lot of empowering agency owners to serve those businesses better. The best place is actually Instagram. If you want to get in touch with me, and maybe that's how we connected too, was Instagram. It's like always the random profile that someone actually runs and manages. So you can find me, Matt Desano, on Instagram or zappychat.com. If you're looking for ways to be more responsive, leverage AI. We've been in the AI space for the last 3 years. We were on Google primarily and then have shifted now to OpenAI as far as the platform and power there. And so we do it very well. And so either of those places, you can find me.
All right. Well, man, we appreciate it. We know you got to keep saving the world and being a great parent. Thank you so much. We got to get you back with another episode. But y'all, you earn how to get in touch with them. Again, we're trying to bring you guys the best possible guests possible. I just said that twice, but we want to bring you guys the best just so you understand that it is possible to continue to grow your business and not lose your family and your morals along the way. So until the next time, we hope that you guys share this episode with somebody. We're going to try to get Matt back on another one. Until then, see you guys. Thank you, Matt, for coming.
Thanks so much, Cameron.